All right, in this video, we're going to work through the following problem. It says write a program that contains 4 methods. The first method is the main method, and the only statement in the main method is a call to the second method. The second method should prompt the user to enter 2 integers and then pass the 2 values to the third method. And the third method should add the 2 numbers together and then pass the result to the fourth method. The fourth method should display the sum of 2 numbers to the user with an appropriate message. Okay, so start off with the class header, public class. Let's just call it 4 methods and a main method, public static void main string args. All right, it says the first method is the main method. Okay, the only statement in the main method is to call the second method. All right, so let's add another method. And for right now, we'll just keep it as void. And then we need to call, right? It says the main method needs to call the second method. So for right now, we'll just leave it at that. And we'll compile that and run it. Okay, so far so good. All right, next up it says the second method should prompt the user to enter 2 integers. Okay, so we need I'm just going to use scanner. And then enter an integer, prompt the user. And get the integer from the user, and then prompt them again. And get the second integer. All right, so let's try that. And I forgot my import statement. All right, and just to kind of show you how it works its way through the program, right? I'll use scanner, right? So execution always, or use this canvas to take a look at it, and you can see that execution starts right here in the main method, and then it's going to call this method. You're going to see it's going to drop down here. Oops, I clicked the wrong button. All right, I got to hit this curved arrow to get it to go through there. All right, so hit the curved arrow. You can see it drops down into this method because that's what the method call does, right? It transfers execution to this method. And then it's going to wait for me to type in an integer and then type in another one. And then you're going to see it's going to bounce back to the main method where it was called from and then continue on its way. Okay, so that looks so far so good. All right, it says the second method should prompt the user to enter 2 integers, done, and then pass the 2 values to the third method. All right, so we need a third method, and we're just going to leave this void for the time being, and then add our third method in here. And here it specifically says pass the two values to the third method, right? So these two values that the user entered, right, in this second method, I want to send them down here into the third method. So down here in the third method, right, I need to have some parameters, because that is basically the entrance, right, to the method. If there's any data that's going to come in, right, it's going to come in through these parameters here. And these are ints that I want to pass, so I need to put the type here, right, and then some names. I can use the same names if I want to there. It's fine. All right, and then so now this third method is set up to receive the information from the second method through these parameters. And now what I need to do is go back into the second method and actually do the passing of the information to these parameters here. All right, and so the way that I would do that is with a method call, right? I would call this method, third method, so I would put its name. And then for each parameter in the parameter list, of which there are two, right, I would have to supply some information. That information needs to be of type int, right? And so first int I'm going to pass, and that is going to, whatever number is stored in there, it's going to go down into this parameter in the second method. And then for the second parameter, I am going to give it whatever values in second int. All right, and so now that will link up this second method and the third method together. Okay, so what will happen is the user will type some stuff in, it gets stored in first int and second int and put in there, and then that stuff is going to get passed down to here and here. All right, so let's let's work a little bit more, and then we'll trace through it. All right, so that gets this sentence right here. It passes the two int values to the third method. It says the third method should add the two numbers together. All right, so let's do that. So I'll define a variable called sum, and then I want to add these two values together. All right, so let's take a second there, compile it, and then we'll run it through Canvas again, so now you can see exactly what's going on behind the scenes. So, and I'll try to remember to hit the curved arrow this time. So, okay, so here execution starts in the main method on the first line, as it always does of the main method. And so in the main method is this method call. That's going to transfer execution down here. You can see it jumps down into here, sets up the scanner object, prompts the user to type in an integer, 34, asks the user to type in another integer, and that's 10. All right, and then we hit this method call, this call to third method, right? And so right now, if I expand this a little bit, right, you can see that first int and second int, you can see their values. All right, and you really don't see anything for first and second yet, all right, because we're not in that method yet. As soon as I hit this curved arrow, it's going to jump down here, right, to the third method, right, because this is a method call. So it calls this method, third method, it looks at the value of first int and sends that to the parameter first, right, and then it looks at the value of second int and sends that to the parameter second. And now you can see, right, that the variable first has this value, so this value was sent down here, and then this value was second int was sent to second right here. And then it's going to do the addition. All right, and then it adds those together. Okay. All right. So that's Working okay. All right, so the third method should add the two numbers together. Done. Right, then it should pass the result to the fourth method. All right, so I'm going to have a fourth method. For the time being, I'll just leave this as void. And this third method is supposed to, let's see what it says. Okay, it says the fourth method, it says pass, the third method should pass the result, so just the sum. All right, so I'm just going to create a parameter. This has basically one piece of information that it needs. It needs that sum, right, value there. So this, right, is basically the entrance. It's now, this fourth method is now set up to receive an int value, which it's going to put in this variable called sum. Now you may say, hey, well, wait a second, what about sum here and sum here? I noticed they're the same. Is that okay? Is that going to mess things up? And the answer is that it's okay here, right? The scope of this variable sum is only in this method right here. So, and so this one is in a totally different method, and so it's fine. All right. All right, and so that should, everything should look okay. All right. So that looks like it's working fine. All right, and then it says, so we've passed the result to the fourth method. So now we're on this final sentence here. It says the fourth method should display the sum of the two numbers, okay? So all right, so the fourth method should be just print out this message, and that's it. So if I do 2010, I get nothing, right? And the reason I get nothing is because I forgot to call the fourth method, right? Just because your method, just because you have a method in there does not mean it gets executed automatically, right? You've got to call it, right? So inside the third method, I need to give it a call the method. So I type the method's name and look at the parameter list. The fourth method has one parameter named sum. So I need to give it one piece of information, and what I need to give it is also called sum in this method here. So now if I type 19 and 57, you can see it adds it together and gives 76. All right, so this example, right, is mostly about, do you know or are practicing passing information from one method to the other, right? Chaining methods together by method calls and passing information through the methods. What this one doesn't do, and what we will do in a subsequent example, right, is there's also the mechanism for passing information back to other methods, okay? And we're going to do that through what's called a return statement, okay? When we talk about value methods. All right, and that is it for this example.